Good day, everybody. Welcome back to Digital Ag Global, brought to you by Qaltivate. I'm Clyde Graham, your host, coming to you today from Ottawa, where it's actually, if you look out my window, we have snow coming down. So I hope your weather is a little better than ours here. Today, we're going to be taking a close look at one of the most important developments in agriculture, if not the total economy, agricultural intelligence. AI is on the verge of revolutionizing our economy, our culture, and our daily lives. This technology will also change the way we farm, from precision agriculture to predictive and analytics. And today we'll be breaking down its real world impact. Before we introduce our guest, I'd like to turn it over to Yurii Kovalchuk, the CEO at Qaltivate, for a few opening remarks.
Thank you, Clyde. Guys, nice to have you back, and thank you for sticking around for the 8th episode of Digital Ag Global. We've been talking about AI, its implication and impact on agriculture for quite a few times already in our previous episodes, and today's episode we decided to dedicate to solely artificial intelligence and what it means to agriculture and agri-food sector in general. But before we jump into introducing our today's guests, they're amazing, by the way. I want to just remind everyone that we have a sponsorship packages available. So if you want to become a part of our community, if you want to share your insights with our listeners and our guests and help to promote digital agriculture in general, feel free to drop us a line and we'll make it possible. So without further ado, let's jump into introducing our guests today.
Sure. So Yurii is right. We do have two amazing guests with deep knowledge on artificial intelligence. And as entrepreneurs, they're also putting their money where their mouth is on the issue. So first, Tom Gauthier, he's the CEO and co-founder of US-based AgTechLogic. And Tom, you're based in Gilbert, Arizona, and we'll turn it over to you for a second. And then we're also pleased to have Hassan Halawy, who's in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. And his company, he's the CEO of Elite Agro Projects, also heavily engaged in artificial intelligence in the Middle East. So we're thrilled to have both of you here today. And to kick off the discussion, I'd like to have our guests provide their understanding of artificial intelligence and what it means for agriculture. Maybe, Tom, do you want to start? And maybe tell us a little bit about yourself first and your company.
Yeah, appreciate that, Clyde and Yurii. Thank you for the opportunity. So I originally started AgTechLogic really out of the dream because my grandfather farmed, my dad farmed, but I knew so many people that were dealing with farm issues. I mean, everything from exposure to pesticides to labor issues to the cost of food. And I've always been a technology nut. And I was talking with a good friend of mine who's an agronomist, and I kind of threw my hands up like, we can do this, we can solve these things, and he said it's really hard. And I'm like, that's okay, hard work, not a problem. And so after 30 years of working various different consulting projects and a career deploying technology, I decided to throw everything into AgTech. And so, Clyde, to your question about AI, the interesting things is portions of AI have been around for some time, but it's really getting the news the last few years. When you opened, you actually used the term agriculture intelligence and artificial intelligence. And I thought that was interesting because as we're talking to some of the larger growers that we're starting to deploy with, they've always made it very clear that it's got to provide some type of actionable intelligence too. So really, artificial intelligence is, the ability to gather this data in a way that actually is going to be actionable, but can do it much faster than if we had to go back into our spreadsheets or create diagrams or create different ways to look at data and information that's flowing to create something that's truly actionable, to be able to do something with it. And we now have the compute power to do it much faster and in different directions that we've never done before.
Yeah. Okay, Hassan, maybe you could give your perspective. But first, of course, tell us about your journey in this area and a bit about your company.
Yeah, thank you, Clyde. Pleasure connecting with you, gentlemen, and for this opportunity. As mentioned, I'm the CEO of Elite Agritech Division. So we are a UAE-based agriculture company. We established here we're nearly now 15 years old. And from the UAE, we grew our footprint to be present now in more than 6 countries. And it's spread from East Europe in Serbia to Morocco and Eritrea. Morocco, Mauritania, Ethiopia. We have ongoing projects today in Saudi Arabia. We've executed projects in Liberia. So we're a bit exposed to different geographies, different crops, different weather conditions and growing conditions. And I'm emphasizing on that because this is part of why AI is so important for successful agriculture. Myself, my career has been, I'm an agriculture engineer. I'm from a very long chain of farmers, and this is what we do. My career took a diversion across the route because, if you grew on a farm, if you ever grew up on a farm and waiting for crops from year to year, I think Tom can relate to that. You really don't want to stay away from this as much as possible. And it's quite challenging. You're against everything. You're against the weather, the markets, the temperature, the floods, the rain. And so my career took me to across different industries, whereby the adoption of technology could really help facilitate and really make breakthroughs in terms of cost cutting, in terms of efficiency, especially with the adoption of artificial intelligence. I give some example from outside our industry. Previously, for almost 100-year valuations for imports, duties, and was done mechanically or by hand through companies, very few companies across the world, and they're conglomerates, huge conglomerates that control the business because they have the databases, because of their business, and because of their geographical footprint on major ports around the world. Today, small companies from Canada, from the UAE, affiliates of ours, through AI, were able to, once they had access to these data sets, could develop models that can do predictive analysis for prices, disrupting a 100-year-old business with a very low cost. And different cases that I can tell you. And I was always thinking when I joined Elite Agro, and I was looking at the industry, we still have a very, very low penetration or usage of technologies in agriculture. There's a lot of huge attempts of going into it, but still the penetration, and I think Tom can agree on that. Once it comes to all the use cases, to all the benefits that we can get out of it, it's still very low compared to fintech, compared to medicine, compared to the other industries. Fast forward, I believe that with the fast pace of disruption that's happening in the industry, in agriculture, due to the change in weather, the dynamics of the market, life after COVID is not the same, the disruptions in supply chain, all that. We are no longer able to rely on traditional knowledge, which all farmers used to relate to. So we need to adapt. We need to adapt quickly. We need to come up with new genetics. We need to come up with new varieties, new breeds. And the only way we can expedite this to meet the global demand is by what AI is able to offer us. It's able to offer to bridge that gap, eliminate 20, 30 years of trials in different cross-pollination, different genetics, so that we can come up with varieties that can meet whatever is the that can meet the ever-changing trends in weather, in market demand, in consumer taste, so that we can come up with products that get premium prices and adapt well to our conditions. And that's the importance of AI and what it brings to the industry as a whole.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Hassan, and appreciate the specific examples you provided, which we'll be getting into shortly. Yurii, as a software engineer and your company engaged in the back end of AI, maybe you could give us your views from a technical point of view as to the realities of AI in agriculture.
For sure, Clyde, and I think I will kind of bring in a bit of lingo for all of us to use today, so we are all on the same page and we can explain clearly what's going on in all the AI trendy environment today. So artificial intelligence essentially is a very big term under which umbrella we have a few other terms that we need to understand. AI meaning we create a program or a software that helps our computer to make some actions or decisions without human interaction. And we've seen how popular generative AI is. Generative AI basically means that it can generate something, text, audio, video, any type of content. That's super popular, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of that. But then there are other subsets of AI that are particularly relevant for agriculture. And that's something Hassan already mentioned. A big part of it is predictive analytics and understanding of your data, and it goes under a machine learning domain, where you can actually train a model or an algorithm to make some sort of predictive analysis decision on a data that you feed into the algorithm. Under this machine learning subset, you have one more subset called deep learning, which helps work not only with the structured data, but also with unstructured data. It utilizes something called artificial neural network that helps kind of to mimic a way human brain works, but it helps you to work with vast amount of unstructured data. And a part of machine learning, we have some additional subsets of AI, computer vision, natural language processing, and stuff like that. But to sum up and give kind of the most relevant terms that we're going to use today, I would focus on machine learning, deep learning, and computer vision. Those technologies already have an actual use cases in agriculture that I hope, will discuss further on.
All right. Well, that's great. Thanks, Yurii. So, Tom, farmers are practical people. I was engaged in agriculture when I was a small guy, and so I think people are interested in what are the practical applications of artificial intelligence, in the field and in the farmhouse and in agribusiness as well. Can you maybe talk a little bit about where you see the most valuable implementation of AI in agriculture?
Yeah, the biggest instance we see is the ability to scout faster, more accurately. So, for example, working in a vineyard, one of the things that in almost any ground field operation, understanding weeds. So we have, as part of our algorithm, we're already finding weed types and then letting the grower know and see exactly what their weed density looks like by weed type, so they can start to understand where they have weed resistance. The other big practical one is just early disease detection. So in vineyards, I was mentioning one of the most popular things, diseases is powdery mildew. And that's fairly easy to spot if you're actually walking the fields, but some of the growers, have tens of thousands of acres. And at times they're not able to see that. So now you're able to put technology on equipment that's traveling through the field, whether at a scout vehicle or a tractor or sprayer, and you can actually capture those things. And if you can find those diseases early, you can actually alert the grower and send them a text, send them an email, tell them exactly where it's at. They can go treat that disease and dramatically reduce crop loss. And so that's something that's very practical to do today.
Yeah, great example. Hassan, what about you? I know you mentioned some specific things, but where do you see some of the most promising areas for the utilization of artificial intelligence in?
Yeah, well, I'll second Tom on that. Of course, I think the early detection is very important. Automating this process from and moving from the reliance on human error. From a human-centric approach where you're relying on scouts who cannot really cover all the areas. That's something very important. The technologies that are available today and being adopted in other fields, like the security field, for example, taking out feed and detecting abnormalities from live stream is very important. That's something that we're also working on with one of our local carriers and AI local companies in the UAE to build a data model that's more customizable to the disease that are more available here. So that's really one of the main items. The second one is, I would reiterate what I said earlier. It's improving our breeding process to come up with heat tolerant, salt tolerant varieties that are able to produce under the weather conditions. I think we had in the UAE, we had a head start because we are an arid area. But today, the more I travel across the world, I see this demand on this growing. I'm personally from Lebanon, so in Lebanon, Syria, our rainfall today is almost half it was 10, 15 years ago. And if you're traveling today in the south of France, south of Italy as well, you can see also that most of you can see areas that never used irrigation, getting covers, canopies for their crops. So I think the prediction model, like Yurii said, to come up with the right breeds quickly is very important. That's another aspect. And a very, very important area where AI can fall in place is in terms of the prediction of market demand, so that we understand how to produce, where to produce, and to which demand. So we can get more intelligence now with the connected world that we live in. We can have prediction on the demand. We can have predictions on the market preferences. Where are we growing? What are the yields that are coming, so that we can first anticipate the prices, know what to plant, how to distribute the food. Till today, we throw 30% of the food that we produce, mostly due to and at the same time we see starvation in many areas. That's mostly because we overproduce in some areas and we undersupply in others. So I think once we have more adoption of technology, I'm not saying just AI. AI will be the engine, the brain behind this to make it happen quickly. We can see, we would understand more how much to produce, where to produce, preserve our natural resources, understand how much to export to each country, so that we'll have a better and fair distribution of food, or at least I hope so.
And I think, Hassan, you bring up a great point, which I believe is AI can make, if you're a really good farmer today, AI can make you much better. If you're a mediocre farmer, could make you very profitable.
Very good.
And if you're just starting out in farming because you have a passion for farming, but you don't really know farming,
it will protect you.
Yeah, you suddenly can have expertise because AI could help you, educate you on what to do, when to irrigate, when to fertilize, when to apply pesticides. I mean, it could make you strong enough that you could stay in farming, because we're losing farmers I really do believe AI can help those farmers to stay in.
Absolutely. And it does not have to be I mean, developing stuff is very expensive. However, there are so many tools at our hands today that any farmer can, with I'm not saying no knowledge, but with limited knowledge, can utilize so that they can maximize the efficiency of their farms, and it really comes at negligible and sometimes zero cost to them. I developed with a couple of friends a full platform that is open source, utilizes spatial imagery to measure indexes of fields and give AI recommendations on irrigation, and it's working. It's not the most accurate platform. It still needs a lot to learn to adjust the model. But I mean, the costs that were related to doing it are nothing compared to when we say training an LLM model. So I think that the technology is becoming more and more available. It's about how to understand it, how to structure it, so that you can get intelligent and actual results out of it. And I think this is where the problem is in most, at least from my end, in most of the use cases that we see, or most of the projects that we get into, is how to organize our data, how to structure our data, and how to put the prompts in place so that we can maximize the output coming from the AI.
Yeah, well, I think that's very interesting. I mean, my sort of experience is that farming requires a very broad level of expertise and skills, from agronomy, plant science, economics, farm equipment maintenance, ordering, marketing, a whole range of things. It's hard for a farmer to be good at all those things. And what I'm hearing from you is that AI can help plug those gaps in knowledge and expertise and make farmers more well-rounded. I think that would be a great thing. Maybe, Yurii, maybe you could talk about, from your perspective and working with people in this area, what do you see as some of the most promising areas for AI?
For sure. First of all, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Hassan. You mentioned how AI AgTech solution can help farmers themselves, but I would like to look at it from a different perspective. Why AgTech companies and innovators in agriculture start to implement and employ AI in their solution in the first place. And I think there are two main arguments to it. The first one, have an AI-driven solution is super trendy right now. It's easier to get investments and easier to grow a company, and that's just how it is. But the second one, it's simplification of the process and actual cost efficiency. If you train the model once, for example, on NDVI indexes from Sentinel data, you just need to tweak it in the future. You just need to adjust it. You don't need to redo everything from scratch. And utilization of existing solutions, existing LLM models, existing computer vision models, existing machine learning models, can actually help a lot of AgTech companies to integrate AI into their offering. In terms of most valid use cases, from what I've seen so far, a lot around pest control, weed control, everything from like early detection of pests to automatic weeding based on computer vision. Some of those companies grow quite good. Some of those companies fail, but it's quite an important part of farming process, because you either use manual labor or you use something automatic. So weed control and pest control definitely up there on the list. Also, insights, kind of AI-driven insights for farmers based on satellite data, based on weather station, based on historical data. That's another big chunk of an industry that will see a lot of improvement based on AI. There are a lot of companies who work on that. and create kind of AI advisors for farmers. We'll see whether farmers want to use them or not, but this trend is definitely there.
Yeah, interesting question whether we're going to need agronomists and other advisors, certified crop advisors in the United States in the future with AI. I think there's going to be room for that human touch for a long, long period of time, but
it's going to be there for sure.
Yeah.
Clyde, if I could, our CIO actually stated this like even a couple of years ago, like AI will not replace farming. But farmers with AI will absolutely replace farmers without it. And, we believe in, again, not to be too self-promoting, but like Hassan, we believe that collaboration and looking at that is a big deal as part of that. So we're working with agronomists to help understand how can AI connect with the farmer as part of our platform to make them even smarter and better and more valuable. So we're not trying to replace. I mean, I think that's the thing that we hear out there is like, AI is going to replace this and that. There in the farming world, I don't see it replacing. It's just accelerating. It's lowering risk. It's helping operation efficiencies. But every farmer we know are still begging for people, are still looking for people to help them in all these different areas. So it's just going to go faster of what those farmers can actually accomplish, and help them survive.
And maybe that means that some of the jobs related to agriculture will be more high value, interesting, rewarding kind of careers than some of the traditional roles on farms in the past.
Actually,
Zach, you want to jump in on that? I think I get a sense you're itching there. So.
Yeah, Clyde, I wanted to emphasize on that point. Due to AgTech, due to the fact that agriculture is no longer this. Traditionally, agriculture was always seen as the breaking the back, dawn till dust kind of industry, and now with AgTech is becoming a bit more attractive to the younger population. We're seeing now another raising of interest. They're like getting back interested in the industry, and this is very important because. Another aspect why technology in general and maybe AI will improve it is that we are seeing, we are witnessing and living a very aging population in all the traditional agricultural areas. And younger generations for the last 50 years since I think almost 50 years, all moved to the cities, abandoned the villages, abandoned the life, the rural life, and we are witnessing a very old generation that's today in the late 70s, 80s in these areas, and the rural farmers, the small stakeholder farmers, not the corporates, till today produce 60% of our food. Mm-hmm. So that's a big risk also on food security for all the world. The adoption of technology is first assisting the elder generation today. So we're seeing very big adoption of technology in India and in Nepal, for example. And because of that hype, we're seeing younger generation gaining more interest into agriculture. And I can see that also here in UAE, where the younger generation are really keen and very passionate about agriculture, going back into agriculture, because it's no longer this hands in the dirt industry. It's now having technology into it. There's science. It's always had science, but the advanced technologies is becoming a bit attractive to them, and that's another benefit that we should really highlight and emphasize on.
Yeah, you want to just chime in quickly, Yurii?
No, makes a lot of sense, and I think once we can showcase that agricultural farming in general, whether you're growing crops or you do animal farming, it's not that old-fashioned industry. it's full of technology, innovations, and stuff like that. We will bring more people into it, and then we'll get better outcome for the whole world. But we also need to utilize and employ innovations that we really need, not just for the sake of innovation or the sake of AI or because it's trendy word, but we need to do it because it gives an actual benefit to the industry itself. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, Clyde, Yurii, we're hoping to help bridge that gap. We're talking about this younger generation, interesting enough. And I got to go look at the actual stat, but over the last 5 years, one of the top rated games was a farm simulator game, with the kids.
Right. Yeah.
And so, we hope that, they get excited about that because they're already playing with these things in AR, VR. And actually we're promoting our AR, VR technology to be able to get that, bridge that gap. And hopefully, they know. Now you can't tell them it's still not hard work. It's going to be hard work. Farming is hard. Clyde knows that. You've been there. It's hard work, but it's going to be a lot more fun. It's going to be a lot more profitable and exciting because technology is going to be part of it. And so I think that's going to bridge the gap for the younger generation that is really yearning to help. How do I help with the planet? How do I help with the food supply chain system? But I also want to be techie, and I like techie. How do I combine the two? And I think all the future of farming is going to have that. It's still going to be sweat, and blood, but you're going to have a lot of technology as part of it.
Well, I think when in our journey talking about farm tech, I think one of the big advantages has been that generally farm tech allows people on farms and in related industries to do more of the stuff they really enjoy and less of the stuff that ain't so fun. We do have one comment from Yurii Kovalchuk from Ukraine, and he's with CHS Inc. And his comment is, in Ukraine, for example, we need to change a generation of farmers, and we'll I think just the grammar's a little off. We'll wait for digital revolution in farming. And he points out that both Tom and Hassan are correct in their views on all this. So you got some fans. I would remind everybody listening in, please put your questions or comments in the chat, and we'll try and get some comments. But I think that generational issue that Yurii brings up is really an important one for agriculture.
But I think, Clyde, it's got to connect to Yurii. You mentioned this before, which is, and farmers have told us to. You can't just say AI and all of a sudden they're just going to start sending you money. And farmers aren't like, hey, just say AI and I'm just going to buy it. I mean, so it's got to absolutely solve a problem that's really connected to operational efficiency. And if you can help with that operational efficiency, you'll get that first project, especially as a young company, and they'll give you an opportunity to share more and do more about it. But you can't just go out there with some wild, crazy idea, hope that they're going to just, flood. But if you could solve a real world problem, then you're golden.
All right. So the thing I'd like to explore next, though, is I think we've established there's a tremendous amount of promise for artificial intelligence in agriculture, but it's not everywhere. In fact, it's probably more it's less the rule than we would like at this point. What are the hurdles, and how do we get over them for much broader adoption of artificial intelligence? I mean, I think, Tom, in the U.S., North America, there's a lot of concern about who controls the data and other things like that. And Hassan, you're working in a world where many of the farmers are very small holders, 1 or 2 acres. So how do we get this technology into the hands of farmers and the people who support them? Tom, do you want to start?
Sure. I think part of it is, the good news is hardware and compute power continues to get better and more affordable. There's, and I've even heard, Hassan, you can share with me that, the development of, smartphone and the fact that everybody's got one, in the US, and more people are getting them worldwide is certainly going to help us in that. So hardware and compute power getting better, communication getting easier to connect with. There's a lot of programs going on. everything from Starlink to local networks being built to help farmers to connect to provide that, compute power, whether it be, in the cloud or eventually on the edge. So I think that's really a big piece of it. I think the other thing is you got to make it simple. And again, back to Yuri's point, make it simple, solve a problem for the farmer to adopt. Don't make it overly complex. If they can see a simple way to solve a simple problem, they'll adopt something in AI. And I think if you can keep and collaborate, especially in the US, I mean, the extension groups are really important. Working with agronomists and the extension groups and the universities, there's a lot of farmers that rely on them saying, yes, they've checked it. So getting somebody to check off to say, yes, Tom, your technology looks good. The university says, great. The farmer says, okay, I'll try it. You got to go through that cycle of getting, them to believe that it's actually going to do something.
Hassan?
Yeah. So I'll talk about the hurdles. I think one of the main hurdles that we're witnessing today is the overflooding of data that is coming to the farmers and to operators. It's true, Tom. We work here with, Clyde, you mentioned that we work with a lot of small stakeholder farmers. However, like I told you, our geographical footprint is quite big. And we do have huge farms operation in Serbia and Ethiopia, Morocco. And what we see as today, we use some of the best technologies available out there. We use some of the best tractors. They're all equipped with beautiful state-of-the-art machinery. But when I come and sit with the operator or the farm operations team, and they are now flooded with data coming from their tractors, data coming from their weather stations, data coming from their seed provider, data coming and it's all coming in from different aspects. They're just looking at 6, 7, 8 screens and not able to really process all the data that's coming to them. So that's one problem that needs to be solved. I think it can be solved. It's not difficult. However, today with everybody wanting to be that the key player in the industry, there's no cooperation, there's no collaboration between all different stakeholders, and the farmer today has to really rely on several sources, not able to aggregate them all together. And for a farmer himself, he cannot build a model to aggregate all this. It's too costly for him. So that's one hurdle that I would like to put out there for everyone to really knock it down. The second place when it's more smaller farmers or smaller operation is again we're generating a lot of data that is unstructured, that is flooding the servers of the farmers, because IoT devices are becoming more available, more abundant. So we're getting all this data, but it's again another case where they're not able to process them properly. It's unstructured. They don't know how to maximize the efficiency out of it to come up with really actionable data that can be put to good work and good output. So that's another hurdle that we're witnessing and we're facing today. Okay.
Well, I often think it's not the quantity of the data, it's the quality of the data that's really important in all these things.
Yeah, but you need to, that's why you need to really clean the data, structure it so you can understand where does it go, how does it go, because if you're grouping data and you're putting in, Yurii would probably know this better than me, and you're charting them and you're putting your graph, and if you have a small sets that are coming obscure on the far right, far ends of the graph, if you're not able to clean them, if you're not able to structure them or justify them, it will really obscure your curve and would lead into wrong decision making. So, and you cannot expect the farmer to be doing this exercise. Well, yeah. This is where the technology and the farmers need to work hand in hand, so you can come up with actionable solutions.
Yurii, do you want to come forward with your views on some of the hurdles and the solutions as well?
For sure. data availability and the quality of the data definitely is a challenge. What we can do about quality of the data really depends on regional challenges. It's much easier to get a better data in the regions where you have more of an IoT devices adoption and stuff like that. But I just wanna to focus on something Hassan mentioned, that right now farmers have they have good equipment, they have access to very different technology, and they utilize in several brands, and they're not interconnected in any way. And that is something to consider when we're talking about AI, because every brand wants to keep farmer within their ecosystem. There are a set of tools, there are a set of technologies, platforms, etc., and they want to own every innovation farmers actually buy or use. But the reality is that for a lot of cases, farmers are trying to adopt different technologies from different brands, and they don't have any unified, so to say, platform or a unified way to put a data from John Deere seeder to his cropping farm management platform and vice versa. So that's actually one of the challenges when we talk about not just AI, but definitely like AgTech technologies and their integration in different farm operations. I just want to mention one more potential challenge, and that's something you've quite mentioned before. Who owns the data that we use or companies use to train their machine learning model, deep learning model, or create LLMs to provide some sort of insights for farmers? And that's a big question right now. And I don't think there is one answer to this question. Some of our guests from previous episodes talk about data ownership in farming and agriculture, and I think it's going to be a very important matter moving forward, because someone need to benefit from giving all this data to tech people who will make some sort of predictive analytics based on it.
Well, look, time has been flying and we're coming towards the end. So I'm going to take a comment from one of our audience members. If I get everybody just to really give a quick answer to this, it's from Dimitro Pikas. To what extent are agricultural producers open to new AI solutions, and what factors are holding them back? This is the early adopter issue, right? Who's going to jump in the lake first? Tom?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. I think what it is you can't lead with AI. It's got to be leading with an operational efficiency. So when you talk to that producer, you got to say, I can solve this problem, or I can make this problem better or faster or more efficient. Here's how I'm going to do it. And oh, by the way, I might use AI to do that. I mean, in the process, the thing that's holding them back is producers absolutely want results before they start paying. So as a small company, you then have to do the programming in the upfront capital in order to solve that problem for them. So I think if producers could actually collaborate a little bit with them, again, there's a lot of small companies, and I'll just say for us, we don't need millions to solve some of these problems. Sometimes it's only a little bit of collaboration and a couple of dollars. We can solve the problem and show them the proof, and then we can work together.
Yeah. Hassan?
I'll put my producer hat on now to answer this question. Okay. Producers are very open to any solution that can give efficiency, that can give increased productivity. They're very open to that. Mm-hmm. The factors that hold them back, as Dimitri is asking, is sometimes it's the cost element, because really farmers in the last few years have been struggling enormously to make ends meet and to break even. So they're looking at additional costs as just another. Sometimes, if they're not certain, they don't have 100% proof that this thing's going to work. They're really not willing to put in the cost. That's one thing. Second thing, farming in general is a very traditional industry, and to change the mindset of a farmer, to come and tell him what you've been practicing for the last 30 years is really not that accurate. It's you need to have, like, you need to have your aces in place so that you can really prove that, and it's a matter of time before they're able to adopt it, and they need to see it. Farmers all over the world, wherever they are, they really need to sense the results before they are more keen to try it. And trying AI or trying these new solutions on small, like, test beds, like we used to do with seeds, and does not work. You really need to have a whole field being irrigated and automated to optimize irrigation, to optimize the results, so you can see the results. And that's quite challenging, especially today when you're barely breaking even.
Yeah, I think it's easy for a farmer to look at a tractor or different kinds of brands of tractors and say, yeah, that's exactly what I need on my farm. Artificial intelligence is less tangible and harder to maybe to experience. And that is going to be an ongoing challenge. And I think also that farmers that I talk to often feel that they're being bombarded with people trying to sell them better mouse traps, and there's a lot of stuff in the market competing for the dollars and attention of farmers. So I think we're coming to the end of our time. In fact, I've been enjoying this so much, we're a little bit over. But we did coach Tom and Hassan to prepare what we call a bit of a hot take about AI, what's happening that's really important for people to know. So maybe I'll put you on the spot first, Tom. Do you have a hot take for us today?
Yeah, certainly. I just came back from, a week and a half ago, is the World Agritech Summit and the Future of Food Summit in San Francisco. Brought it together, hundreds of people from around the world. And there were several large food companies that got up on stage and said things like, we need more data, we need more AI, we need more help from small business. I know, Yurii, you wanted to connect this back to investment in AI and small businesses and what's happening out there. Well, I challenged those big companies that went on stage and said, we need more of this, to then, step up, okay, and open the checkbook a little bit, get involved with some of those small companies, because they can run really fast. And those big food companies and big ag companies said that they want fast help right now. Well, they're out there. Those companies are out there looking for those collaborations.
That's great. Hassan, how about you?
I would second Tom on this. However, there's something that I always talk about and I encourage, is having a framework for the data, a framework whereby small companies, big companies alike, have access to these data pools, so that we can start training big models that can be efficient, that can be used by farmers elsewhere. This is not something that a single farmer, single country can do, because a framework like this requires a lot of protection, security, typing, masking of private information. There's different regulations across different countries, GDPR in Europe, data privacy in the States. So this is something that needs to have an ownership or a big umbrella to cover it, and that's the key for AgTech AI to grow and meet the challenges that we're going to see in the coming 10 years. I think big tech are doing a lot of work on this. If you go on Google, check their cloud services, check these data silos that they're preparing, is amazing. Same with Azure. AWS has also a bit of silos, but they're still fragmented. It's nothing covering the whole aspect. Me as a grower, for example, I'm really worried of unleashing this power on a data set that's trained somewhere else, because it will not give me the results that I have here. That's regional to my pest, to my weather conditions, to my arid area. So this is something where there's a lot of room for collaboration. It is something that will make or break the industry. And it is, till today, it is a big impediment, and it's breaking the industry, because till today, we really, no offense here to anyone, but if you look in the AgTech, we see rising stars that just fade across the way. We have not seen success, because till today, the industry is not scalable. And it's for that reason. We can't grow it globally. We cannot grow it the same way we grow a fintech. We cannot grow it the same way in the medical field. We're able to grow an app and let it go. The data is scattered. The data is not organized. We're not able to train models that can be global, that can be as efficient to any farmer across the world as it is to the localized condition where the founder has started it.
Right. Well, like Tom, I was at a farm show last week in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada's farm show. Great place, lots of big iron combines, tractors, everything. But there's a lot of concern about trade tensions globally. Most of that's in goods. One of the experts there from consulting firm Delight said that their concern is that while we're talking mostly about tariffs on goods right now, that AgTech will not escape these kinds of trade tensions, and that could slow down the pace of innovation. So I thought that was an interesting thing to be on everyone's radar. Tom, Hassan, excellent conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Terrific. I really enjoyed it. And maybe sometime we'll have you back. As always, we're going to turn over the last word to Yurii at Qaltivate. Yurii, what are your final thoughts? And maybe you could tell us a little bit what you see coming up on Digital Ag Global.
Thanks, Clyde. First of all, very good thought from Tom, and that's what my hot take. AI is not a silver bullet for AgTech to become an inevitable success. It's more of a very useful tool, a range that you need to use in the right way to make your solution more desirable for your end client, whether it's a farmer or a mill owner or someone within the supply chain or agri-food sector. And that's important to understand. Not to take a lot of your time, guys, stay tuned for our next episode. Subscribe to our LinkedIn page to see who's going to be our next guest and what's going to be a topic. And also, if you felt like we missed something, you want to comment on it, or you have AI solution in agriculture and want to talk about it, feel free to drop us a line. And thank you for sticking around and talking about and listening about AI in agriculture.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, terrific. And thanks, everyone. Talk to you in a month's time.
Bye.